Yeah, I know.
She's not working, is she?
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
is she working with it?
Yeah.
Great, something.
Sure.
Bill, you're waiting, Bill.
That's
We're on
right.
the figure to solve.
Okay, we'll call workshop to order and dealing with the budget, so Commissioner Rocker, go ahead.
All right, thanks for all for being here. I understand Dennis, his wife had surgery this morning, and he's possibly going to be here.
I didn't think so.
Didn't think so, not in
The surgery got pushed a little back,
All
what
the
I
time?
understand.
Yeah, okay.
On time, so he was, yeah, she wasn't in surgery. Yeah.
We'll just assume that he agrees with everything we agree.
Not sure. If he doesn't, we'll hear about it.
Yeah, that's right. So Dan, I will just turn it to you.
Okay.
Before I do though, I just want, I think we could do this in an hour and a half max with what we have here. And the line administration present their planned adjustments to the budget per our discussions we had at our last meeting. And then we'll look at a few specific things and give some final direction and go on our way. Dan?
Okay, thanks. Let me walk through this list that you should have in front of you. It's called potential budget adjustments. Looks like this. Okay, got it. There's a bunch of numbers here you haven't seen before, so I want to walk through them. A lot of refinement. We'd estimated early on the cost of the additional health insurance to be about $700,000. We went through all of the individual budgets, put the numbers in, and the difference chiefly is ARC. With ARC included, it's $200,000 per point. Without ARC included, it works out to something less than that. So we've communicated with Tom. He said he has that covered in his budget. So we're ignoring the ARC component of the increase. That takes our total down to $581,300 approximately for the additional health insurance. That's the difference between the 9% we had in the budget and the 12.5% that was approved as part of when you set the rates for next year. Sheriff transport is another item. That's a new one. That's net of the overtime savings. We were using a number of $125,000 approximately. What Nancy Sanchez from the Sheriff's Office tells us is that goes down, that drops to $95,112. There's about $30,000 in overtime costs that they estimate saving by because of the two new deputies. The third item, so offset some of the good news, I suppose, on the ARC. When we use the levy figure that they had entered in Mitchell-Humphrey, that is not the final levy figure. They never went back and changed it. So the levy that was approved by the ARC board is $20,000 higher than the levy that we had entered in our system. No one ever communicated that to us, or we would have made this adjustment earlier. So that's a $20,682 item. Altogether, the total is about $700,000 approximately. Budget adjustments. First, every year the state sends police departments, fire department, sheriff's department, some money that's collected from insurance premiums. It's called police and fire aid. We never know exactly how much it's going to be. It's always a guess. In October, November, we get a check from the state for the amount that we receive for police and fire aid. This October's check was $80,000 higher than we've been carrying in the budget, and meaning that they're comfortable raising the forecast for next year by $90,000. So there's $90,000 in new funds for police and fire aid. The federal public health and human services, I'll back up a little bit. We asked every single department to go through their budget to look for potential savings, focusing first on new revenues, but also expenditure reductions that would equal about 3% of their insurance premium costs. Almost everybody got back to us. One item that Public Health and Human Services came back with was they're estimating $71,000 more in federal reimbursement than they did at the time they put the budget together. So we've added that as new revenues. The food, beverage, and lodging rate increase, we've used that. That was a guess when we estimated the increase that would be necessary for the program to break even. There's a little more money. That money's not been coming anywhere. That's $62,620. The sheriff estimates their fee increase at $77.60. The next item is a little bit more complicated. If you recall, when Chris Jensen's rate adjustment came through because of the no-lift system, the back injury reduction program, you had assigned $107,000 or whatever to buy the next round of equipment, but the remaining $263,000, this is a rough figure. The notes, if you look at the little footnotes, they're explaining in more detail on the next page. You would assign the next 300, anything over the 107,000 to the 400 funds, which is our capital fund. That's money that we use for building repair, maintenance, that sort of thing. That had never been budgeted. That had never been included in a budget anywhere. So there's $263,000 approximately. Now, we've reduced that somewhat. We don't have a final figure on it, they don't know. But I'm talking to Don. Don said he thought it would be reasonable to take about 85% of it. So we took 85% of the total gross amount. That means that there's $263,000 left unbudgeted. We had, as part of when we were assembling the original budget, when we went back to the department, we asked all of them to find approximately 3%. In so doing, we felt that we should be the first to come up with a way to shave about 3% off our budget. We have done that. It's mostly going to be in other professional services. There's a little bit here and there that will just take that reduction. There is also, Tony Mancuso went through the estimates on the cost of staffing the new 911 center and reduced those costs, estimate that actually it's going to be about, this is for the building maintenance component of it. Estimated that was going to be about $85,000, $85,034 less than they originally estimated, so we've included that. That means the total budget adjustments would be $583,785, meaning that of the shortfall identified at the top, there would be about $113,000 left. Now, I want to make a point about that. Again, as I said, the last budget session we had, this does not mean the budget's out of balance. The budget is in balance, even without these changes. It was in balance. What this is by going with a higher figure in medical insurance costs, it reduced the amount of money that we have available for contract settlement. So we budgeted 2.9, when we went up to 12.5, then we expect more money than we had. And we don't know what these contract settlements are going to be. That's going to take a long time probably to work out. The issue is by trying to make the adjustments now early on, it reduces the probability that you're going to be sitting in September trying to scramble, or we'll be sitting in September trying to scramble to come up with the money we need to rebalance the budget. So I want to make that real clear. This does not mean that this is a deficit, that any of this was a deficit, or that we're in danger of going into a deficit. It's just we don't know yet what contract settlements are going to be. We also don't know yet if there's anything strange coming down. If there's bad news somewhere along the way, if there will be a state aid reduction, for example, if we've had an issue in terms of budgeting for retirements and retiree costs, how we account for that. There's some question marks there. This last year, it looked like we may have under-accounted. The year before, we somewhat over-accounted, but how we budget this, especially as we're building the reserve 1/7 or 1/9 every year to pay for those costs, to have a reserve for those costs when people retire. Other options that we went through were raised at the last meeting. We talked about the earmark that had been placed for veterans program in anticipation. That, well, I guess the feeling was that if the federal government or state government didn't come in with additional revenue, we would have some levy dollars to put into that. That is an option that came up during the last meeting. We talked about reduction in non-mandatory training of up to $30,000. We have looked at that. We can't get a solid figure in terms of what that